Well, good afternoon and welcome to the board meeting of April 27th. I would like to welcome you all for joining us in person as well as online today. So the first on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not acknowledge territory. I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting together on the traditional territory of the Blackfoot people. I apologize for that. First on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions? Can I have a motion to approve, please? Thank you, Jan. Call the question. All in favor? So carried. And we have approval of minutes. As you see on the agenda, we have a series of 3 minute packages to approve. The first is the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 23rd, 2021. It is recommended that the minutes be approved by the board. Can I have a motion to approve, please? Clark, thank you. Call the question. All in favor? So carried. The second were the minutes of the special meeting of the March 26th, 2021 meeting of the board. And I have a motion to approve these minutes, please. Donna, thank you. Call the question. All in favor? So carried. And the third is the approval of the minutes of the special meeting of April 19th, 2021 of the board. May I have a motion to approve these minutes, please? Lola. Thank you, Lola. Call the question. All in favor? So carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, I would like to welcome our guests today. We have Kathy Mundell and Deanna Presley-Roberts. More, would you like to introduce your team to us?
I would love to. You've kindly already done most of the work though, Christine. Just really pleased to have Kathy Mundell and Deanna Presley-Roberts here to provide an update around the great work we do that really supports wellness in our school division and in our community. And this year has definitely been an outstanding one, and the work that they have been doing has really impacted everything from food disparity to poverty supports to social emotional wellness, both in our staff and in our students. And so I'll just turn it over to Kathy and Deanna to share with everybody what they've been up to.
Thank you so much for the invitation to present what counseling and making connections teams are up to. We'll start with saying quite a bit. They're up to what? Thank you. The shifter pointer? Okay. Another solution. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Leanne. You're welcome. So I just want to start by just reminding everybody, or maybe even filling in, who the wellness team is. I think it's important to understand that there were some changes last year. And so the wellness teams at schools vary from school to school, but essentially the wellness team in general is made up of teacher counselors, family school liaison counselors, and student support workers. There is no longer the current role of the career practitioner, but I want to assure you that that role has been absorbed by the role of the teacher counselor, which in essence always has been part of the role of teacher counselor. And student support workers also support students in that way as well, connecting students to career opportunities, post-secondary scholarship information, and that. So that's where our wellness team really, when we talk about wellness team or counseling team, that really is the team that I oversee. And like I said, they vary from school to school based on needs. Also, almost stitched together with the counseling team or the wellness team is our Indigenous grad coaches. They're funded from a different model, but they certainly are part of wellness teams, and we include them in all of our case consults, our professional learning, so they have the same information as our wellness teams, but they get additional information as well with more of an Indigenous focus through the Indigenous education team. In addition to our team as well, we have Jim Kerr, who is part of is our engagement consultant. And so he works with most of the students who are at risk and not engaging in curriculum. So those at-risk students who really are struggling to attend to school, but not necessarily because of programming needs always, but really those more high risk, where more involvement with CFS. And so Jim is really our liaison to CFS and engaging our at-risk in that area. And then we have Deanna Preston-Roberts' team, which used to be the umbrella with Making Connections, but it is broken up into two very distinct teams. We have the mental health capacity building team and the family support worker team. And Deanna's going to take some time now in this next slide to really help you understand the differences, because I think that's really important, and that's where the impact of Making Connections, it did have a significant impact on our elementary schools, but I believe that hard work and synergy on teams, Deanna's done a phenomenal job in making up for that loss. So I would like her to just go on and explain the Making Connections team. Oops. Sorry. There we go. Oh, now I got that. There we go.
All right. So Making Connections back in last year's school year, we received a notification regarding to our funding changing through Children and Family Services. So the ministry decided to dissolve all current contracts and do a procurement in order to create their new family resource network funding model. So we received notification of that in November of 2019, and then the changes took place as of April 1st, 2020, which also happened to coincide with the COVID-19 pandemic, without necessarily knowing that that was going to occur. So what had happened at that time is, prior to April of 2020, Making Connections workers did the same job across our entire division. They worked in 13 elementary schools and 4 middle schools, providing family support predominantly to our families of those schools. They carried a caseload of approximately 25 families at each individual school. So that was quite a substantial amount of support that was being provided to those locations. And knowing that the implications of that change, that our infrastructure was going to reduce the support those families would receive, as well as the ability of our schools to be able to pick up anything that occurred as a result of the having to go back. For this school year, we were able to acquire 5 family support workers, so that is a combination of funding to Children and Family Services as well as the city of Lethbridge through FCSF. Thankfully, we were able to acquire that many positions to support our entire division as a whole. Instead of going back to site fees, we decided to remain as division-wide staffing support. But we had to change our model because we were no longer able to carry those families that had carried in the past and touch base and check in, and that could provide ongoing support. We really need to rely on our school sites to be able to do some of that day-to-day case management and families and checking in and stuff like that before they actually got referred to the family support. So what we do as family support now is an action-based service. Our schools are building relationships on a day-to-day basis with families. They're finding out little information and stuff that percolating issues that are occurring within family context. And so when something becomes too big or a family needs additional support, that really hands-on personalized expertise, they will refer families to family support through our online portal that is available to all division staff. So we have support staff refer, teachers refer, administrators refer, and wellness teams refer families through family support. So what family support is going to do once they get involved is they're going to identify what that goal area is based on what the school has presented, and then they're going to touch base with the family to see if that coincides with what the family is looking for support with as well. A lot of the time, we tend to skip over the natural character needs and those basic needs. We tend to see that in our school settings more on this attendance and stuff like that. So what the referral is being presented as by the school may not necessarily be the predominant issue that the family is struggling with addressing. And so being able to have that very gentle touch, to have those conversations with adult teacher, to be able to have those conversations about food security, housing security, emotional turmoil in the home, and that type of thing, is really where family support can step in and have a huge, very knowledge thing to be able to support those families and navigate those areas. So once the family gets involved with family support maintains contact with the school, because the school is always in the loop as to what's going on regarding family support and their involvement with families. So, because the intent is that family support will conduct whatever referral needs to take place and get the family stabilized enough that it can hand it back to the school site so that it can be managed and maintained. So they'll go in, they'll have conversations with the school, they'll have conversations with the family, they'll identify a goal area, they'll identify that goal area back to the school, they'll try to create some sort of stability through some engagement and motivation of the family, and then once there's stabilization that occurs, then we'll hand it back to the school site and we'll let them know that this family has been hooked up with my care, the food banks, they have bus passes, they have housing, they have all of these things. As of right now, they are stable, and so the school will then take that family on and check in periodically to see if there's anything that's bubbling up or if something has broken down or anything like that, and then they'll likely refer that family to something else. Up to this point in time in this school year, we've received 140 referrals for family support through our online system. And so it's been pretty great. We've had a lot of pickup from the middle schools and the high schools, which we didn't necessarily see in the past. So we were always accessible to high schools, but we didn't have workers in their sites. So they didn't necessarily, they were quite cool with what maybe sections did in the past. But they have really appreciated the support of family support because we have our ability to go and meet with families on their doorstep, take an application with our laptop, fill it out right then and there with the family to ensure that it's being completed, and then we can walk the family through all of those little ins and outs of different processes in order that they may encounter on their own and then get really stuck as to what it is that means for them or why they need to be applying or anything like that. So it just really allows us that personal touch to be able to break that down for families, have those ongoing conversations, as well as build capacity in our schools so that they understand those processes like as well. And so it's kind of this really reciprocal relationship that goes back and forth in which we try to provide as much support as possible to families without being able to carry them on our people. The mental health capacity building team is a team of 4, including myself, who's funded under that funder. It's an Alberta Health Services initiative. It's province-wide. There are 37 operational programs in mental health capacity building and 11 pilot projects. It is a province, we are considered an operational program because we've had that funding since 2008. So that programming is in regards to providing promotional and preventative material and mental health across the entire school division. And so we go into the classrooms and provide in-person classroom presentations on a variety of different topics. You'll see a variety of our programs that we offer right there on the right-hand side. As well as we provide capacity building, we provide schools the option of us coming in or us giving them information for them to present. We can do it virtually, we can do it in person. The nice thing about it is because it's mental health capacity building and it's separate from the educational budget, we have our own additional budget on top of it to provide resources and materials and stuff like that. We get to a lot of graphics and little handouts and stuff like that. And we get wellness note cards to engage certain youth in mental health programming and stuff like that. And we're just able to really think outside the box on those opportunities for students. Currently, they're in Victoria Park working on the importance of sleep and the decreasing screen time at nighttime. One of the other referrals that we've done is we assisted gently with their spa day, in which we also brought the opportunity for the other middle schools to pick that up as well and have it replicated in their buildings. And so Gilbert Patterson will be doing on Friday moving forward for their students. The nice thing about having mental health capacity building devoted to doing mental health capacity building programming in our building is it allows that Division 1 initiative to go first, where we can take a program or plan at, say, GSA, for example, and we can say to the other middle schools, would you be interested in having this program come up? This is what this other school has done. And so it ensures that everyone across the entire grade level has access to the same information, the same language, and the same opportunity.
Does anybody have questions about, does anybody have questions for Deanna in regards to her two teams? Okay. So I think what we've had to do this year is really looking at our model, and because of the need for mental health supports, particularly for youth in our division and in our city and in our community, especially amplified with COVID, it was really necessary to focus some of my energy on really bolstering our community partners, the relationship between the school division and our community partners. So I created a list of some of the agencies and organizations that we really do synergize greatly with them, so that we can rely on some of our outside agencies to provide support. So for example, Family Ties. Family Ties is an organization that traditionally we students and families have had to access FSC funding for support outside the hours of school. We were never really allowed to access Family Ties to come into our schools and support because they said no, FSCD doesn't fund that. But we've been creative because Family Ties, for example, has received COVID grants for supporting youth in our community. And so I've really taken advantage of that. They've hired 2 play therapists, they've hired an art therapist, and they're allowed to come into our school now and be part of that. Now, when I say into our school, following protocol, they can meet online and they can provide art therapy, they can provide play therapy for targeted groups and for whole classrooms. And so that's just one of many ways that we synergize with our outside agencies. I think of Careers the Next Generation. We work really closely with this organization so that if our students are seeking employment, they have a direct line to Sarin Devison with Careers the Next Generation to help make connections and help the application process so students can get directly hired into positions as students. And they're very much bolstering the possibilities of approaching some of our businesses in Lethbridge to hire some of our Indigenous youth. And so they're really trying to make and bolster that connection. For example, the Birds of Prey Center in Coaldale, they've connected with them and are really hoping to find Indigenous youth to fill this position. So we're really working closely with Careers the Next Generation, Career Transitions, etc. The other one that I think that we're really making very strong gains is with Alberta Health Services Children's Mental Health and Wellness. We've piloted a program called Strive, and that program is where they have a mental health therapist assigned, and they come into, right now we're piloting at Chinook High School, and it is amazing. The targeted group is with 8 youth who attend Chinook High School, but don't attend class because they are at the pit, smoking, really not engaging, but they're connected to the school because they feel loved and cared for enough. They're connected with the wellness team. They just don't have the skills, capacity, or mental health to really engage in school. And so Strive is a program that we built into the school. Students attend from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock Monday through Thursday for a 6-week intervention program with exposure to the possibility of exposing them to classes in the afternoon. This is massive because these are kids who would have never engaged at clinic. And even if these students did engage in clinic, their appointment would be once every 6 weeks, and the success of that program wouldn't be as strong. This has been an amazing, amazing connection. I could go through every single one. I know we're limited in time, but every single one of those organizations has really taken advantage of really trying to synergize them. That's where some of my work has gone as a response to the pandemic. I also have put together, and I'm sure many of you have seen this, we attached the loop which is really trying to bolster communication. In the past, administration, Cheryl, we receive little bits of information of what's happening in our community, but it comes out in an email that gets sent out, and it's never really collated in a meaningful way. And I just felt the mental health piece needs to be highlighted. And so getting a little piece here and there of a session that's happening in the community isn't effective, and nor do parents look at it. It's very, very quick to hit delete. Even administrators, teachers, they may not understand really the relevance and importance. So having it all in a 1 to 4 page document for parents every month of what's happening in our community in response to mental health, Indigenous awareness, health lines, scholarship information, career transition, it's all in one place and comes out in one place. I just want to talk a little bit. I think in general, school communities are very much buying into understanding trauma-informed practices. So when we look at the understanding of what's happening in our community through the realms of what we call ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, we know in the household, there are certain pockets right now that we're seeing. We're seeing more homelessness. In fact, when Deanna was talking about family support, they have a number of referrals, and what we've noticed from years past is just the intensity of the referral. It's not that there's more need, but the need is just more intense. It's not just finding money for food, but we're really looking into that housing piece, right? And so the work is more intensive. It's certainly a stress on the team, but they're managing quite well. When I think of the pieces in the homelessness, or the pieces in part of the household, homelessness is certainly an issue in our city. Parental mental illness, we're seeing a rise. In fact, family support workers have had to do suicide risk assessment on parents. That's not been the case in years past. I want to stress that, you know, we are doing more suicide risk assessments in schools, but overall, suicidality is actually going down during the pandemic. So that is, I think, important for this group to understand, but that just means that wellness teams and community partners are working so hard to make sure that they're bolstering those connections. And I want to really emphasize and celebrate my team, Deanna's team, for really filling in that gap and ensuring that they're aware and are really watching kids, and that the communication of the schools has been amazing, that they're not letting things slide. When they see a kid's not well, they're doing a check, and they're checking in on the suicidality. They're asking, are you thinking of killing yourself? And that starts the process. So the high rise, you may see that suicide risk assessments are going up, but it's important for you to know that's a positive thing, because it means that safety plans are put in place and that it's working, because suicidality overall is actually going down compared to other years. So I just got that information from Alberta Health Services, so that was good to know. We know that in homes like domestic violence, what we're hearing is that there's not increased amount of domestic violence. What's happening is the intensity, right? So kids are seeing more, but also crisis teams are in place for those situations, and our SROs liaise that. So if there's an incident that happens at a home where there's a child involved, that is communicated directly with our wellness teams through our SROs, which means that we really need to keep our SRO program. It's so valuable to ensure safety and check-ins on students. Also, when I think of the underlying sorts of trauma that happens in our city, I'll highlight historical trauma. When it comes to political polarization is also traumatic. His racism, structural racism in the city, poverty, all that is all part of it. And of course, we're not used to environmental trauma. We don't have tornadoes and rising sea levels and earthquakes, but the pandemic really has shook our community. And so that's just through the realm of ACEs that we are, I call this a little poop storm here, and COVID balls all over for a little humor, in case no one noticed. I just thought I'd just share a couple of statistics that may interest you. They certainly interested me. Interesting to listen to the stats on the information coming out of different research projects out of the U of C particularly, that 58% of families have experienced impact in income loss during the pandemic. 20% of homes have lost all income sources. There's, like I mentioned, an increased intensity of domestic violence. I talked already about the suicidality. 1 in 5 students pre-pandemic live in poverty in Lethbridge, so it's increased. And that there's certainly an increased concern for compassion fatigue with our staff. I'm sorry, I keep repeating the same mistake. Some of the themes that our wellness teams and schools are really focusing on: restorative practices, that non-punitive approach when kids aren't doing well, that we're really leaning into restorative practices and trauma-informed practices. We're really working on themes like resiliency, mental health stigma, like leaning into getting help. Consent is still a big part of it, consent and boundaries. You Matter, we set out a campaign that we're going to be starting. That we're just kind of holding off until we get our bearings a little bit. And then just overall health and wellness. The You Matter campaign, Deanna and I really felt the need to really celebrate our teams. And so Deanna and I created a You Matter campaign where we gave sweatshirts to all our teams to say, "You matter, yes, I'm talking about you." Just to really make sure that we're taking care of our team, and that we're going to start a campaign that really bolsters that, and hopefully there'll be a little bit of spread in that. And then really, that's all I have to do. But does anybody have any questions? My apologies for going over the time, but it was just such valuable information. I think it's information around mental health and wellness is just so big. I just felt it was important to get through that. But does anybody have any questions? More, your hand is up.
I came in, I struck because I got kicked out. Just a quick thing. Thank you to both of you for the work that you are doing. I'm glad that you've got those goodies that say you matter, because you definitely do. The work you've done has most certainly mattered this year. Not that it hasn't in any other year past, but as well, according to Alberta Health Services, the next 6 months to 12 months post-pandemic will be the most impacted. So we think this is hard work. We know we have more hard work yet to come with our counseling teams. And we know that support is integral to ensure that learning happens. So thank you, ladies, for the work that you're doing, and to the teams in our schools as well, and the work that they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for phenomenal work. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. You bet. Thank you, everyone, for making that.
All right, now we will welcome Trish Stein, and we will begin our policy review. We have a few ahead of us today.
Good afternoon. How are you?
We're well. Welcome.
Good. Thank you. So we do have a few policies today to go through. And I'm going to start with policy 202.2, Chair of the Board. So just using wording from the Education Act and the Board Procedures Regulation. So reworded the beginning part to reflect the wording in the Act and Board Procedures Regulation. And then reflected that in the references as well. Any questions or concerns? Clark.
Talking about three policies, correct? Just trying to figure out.
Yeah, the 202, Chair of the Board.
You got rid of had the pleasure of the board in Regulation 1, but it's still in the upper description. Well, need it there. What is it?
Well, that was the question when we met as a committee. Did we want to repeat it?
Oh,
Oh, it's a matter of, yeah, it's repetition. I don't know.
I thought maybe if you wanted to remove it in one spot, you want to remove it both. It's a weird phrase.
It is. We're very irregular.
During the tenure of the boards, or the term of the board, or something like that. The pleasure of the board is just a dinosaur phrase.
But I think at the pleasure in insinuates that the chair can be voted out if there is displeasure, right?
Yeah.
That's the term that's used in the,
It is used, yes.
and so that's what's in the board procedure regulation as well as the Division of Education Act. So, yeah, it seems odd, but it is really at the pleasure of the select board.
Is the language in that statement says, and another as vice chair to hold office during the pleasure of the board, or should be at the pleasure?
Any other questions? I think we have a motion to approve, please. Clerk.
Wait on Lola? Right. I just get through this.
Oh, no, it's all good. Go ahead, Lola.
Okay, I move to approve. Okay. I have somebody else, on somebody else. Okay, policy 202, chair board.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? So carried.
I move to approve policy 202.3.
Oh, we haven't talked about that one, Lola.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so 202.3 individual trustees. Again, just a reflection of the board procedure regulations and adding number 7. Each trustee will be assigned schools to serve as a liaison. Liaison functions include but are not limited to attending school activities, staff meetings, special events, and school council meetings as available. Committee just felt that was not mentioned at all in the policy, and that is actually just part of the role of the trustees.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Motion to approve, please.
I move to approve policy 202.2, long range plan. Oh, the one before, okay. Sorry, I'm sorry. Policy 202.3, individual trustee. Okay.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? All in favor? So carried. Next one.
Policy 203.2, long range planning, just a reflection of the change in name from education to the assurance plans that support the vision, foundational statements, and priorities. So just reflecting the new term assurance in this policy.
Thank you. Any questions?
I move to approve that the board approve policy 203.2, long range planning as amended. All in favor?
Call the question. All in favor? So carried.
203.4.1, standing committees. Just changing the name of the Healthy Schools Committee to Division Wellness Committee, First Nations Métis Inuit Committee to the Indigenous Education Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Any questions? You have a motion, please.
I move to approve policy 203.4.1, standing committees. Be approved.
Call the question. All in favor? So carried.
Policy 203.5, special ad hoc committees. Actually, no changes in this one, just a reflection of the act, the new sections of the act, and division from district.
Any questions?
I move to approve policy 203.5, special ad hoc committees as amended.
Call the question, all in favor? So carried.
Okay, policy 203.6, joint committees. Again, no changes to this one, just change from the School Act to Education Act to division from district.
Any questions on this one? We have a motion, please.
I move to approve policy 203.6, joint committees as amended.
Call the question, all in favor? So carried.
Christine,
Yes, Claire.
I'm sorry, I had this written down and I missed it, but in 203.5,
Yeah,
in number 4, we call it Secretary, Treasurer, Associate Superintendent of Business Affairs. Should that reflect your new name, Christine?
Yeah.
Oh, that's dying.
They could go through, you're gonna have to change it in the whole health policies. So I think that's what we call like it's just a tiny
Okay.
tweak. So it doesn't need to come back to the board until they can get a chance.
Sorry.
thanks for catching that. Next one, Trish, please.
203.6.3, board representatives. Again, just changing district to division, school to education. That was the only changes in this one as well.
I move to approve that the board approves policy 203.6.3 as amended.
Thank you. Call the question, all in favor? So carried.
Okay, 204.9, board meeting procedures. No changes to this policy either. Just the, again, School to Education Act and District to Division.
Any questions on this policy?
I move to approve that the board approve policy 204.9, board meeting procedures as amended.
Call the question, all in favor? So carried.
Okay, policy 204.13.1, public solicitations of the board. Just adding in 2.1, the board may grant donations provided the function of the organization is considered by the board to be a natural extension of division programs and or a connection with mission, vision, and values.
Any discussion? Can I have a motion, please?
I move to approve policy 204.13.1, public solicitations of the board as presented.
Call the question, all in favor? So carried.
Okay, policy 1003.1, channels of communication and disputes resolution. So requested by the board to be taken back to the policy advisory committee. And some parts of the policy were unclear, specifically number 11 and the chart. The committee clarified the channels of communication with 11.1, matters involving students and or staff shall respect the following channels of communication using the chart. And then 11.2, matters involving governance can be conveyed to board members directly. As per policy 201.3, general powers and duties of the board, these matters include planning, policy, budgeting, accountability, and assurances practices, appeals, advocacy, and communication.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? Clark?
Just in the boxes, staff maybe is
Yeah.
cut off.
Yeah.
And they have the back parentheses of superintendents. I don't know how you make that work.
Yeah. Any other comments? This is much clearer, thank you. Yeah. Can we have a motion, please?
Move to approve policy 103.1, channel for communication and education.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor? So carried. Thank you. Thank you, Trish.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trish.
Those cords are dangerous.
All right, well, now we move to the part of our board meeting where we share division highlights. So there are highlights that you would like to share from this past month. It's been a hard month. We haven't been able to get into our schools. Our schools, as per usual, haven't had a lot of events, but I would just like to take this time, and I think I can speak on behalf of the board and just saying, Cheryl, you and your team and all of the staff in our division is doing a phenomenal job maintaining and working with excellence during this season. I know that there have been staff shortages and there have been many students home, and we have tired parents, we have exhausted parents, anxious students, tired students, and staff are not immune to those feelings as well. And I just want to thank you all for working with excellence and leading with excellence and just continuing to empower and encourage our teachers. So thank you for that. All right, so we have some information items. Oh, am I speaking ahead? Nope, I'm not. So the first in our my board chair report, we have Arts Alive and Well in the School. This is typically an annual event partnered with Southern Alberta Art Gallery, Lethbridge School Division, Holy Spirit Catholic School Board, and Ecole L'Evangile Boundary. I apologize for my accent. I'm not going to try it 3 times. And typically, students submit their artwork and they're presented at the Southern Alberta Art Gallery. And last year, because of COVID, this went online. It became a virtual event. And I'm not sure if all of you have been able to see, but some of that art has been showcased around the city on the construction sites. I think that was a very innovative, fantastic way to showcase student art and beautify the city a little bit. And so what they have decided to do is, because it was so successful, they decided to move the exhibition online permanently. And they've changed the name to Virtually Installed Lethbridge School Student Art. And so I would just like, the exhibition will be hosted on a page on the Lethbridge School Division website starting on May 3rd, and it will be promoted by the Southern Alberta Art Gallery and the Holy Spirit Catholic School Board. And SAG will be showing a virtual tour of the artwork on their website. So like last year, there's an opportunity for everybody to vote online for your favorite. So definitely worth going online and checking out the art. We have some phenomenally talented students in our division. And I would just like to extend appreciation to Kathy Nelson. Kathy, thank you for all your efforts to coordinate the celebration of student art in Lethbridge. I know a lot of time and care goes into this project from your end, so we just thank you for that. Now for our pandemic plan update, there hasn't been a lot of changes within our division, but any changes will be updated on the division website. One change that has been made, however, is at the board special meeting on April the 19th, the board voted to make an addendum to the pandemic plan, and we voted to make online activities an exemption to being a prohibited activity. So schools are now able to engage in online clubs and activities at the discretion of the school team there. And so that is a change that we made. And we also made another addendum to allow for the board to make further exceptions to prohibited activities in the future, should we see a need for that. So if you want to see the changes, you can go check that out on the division website. Associate Superintendent Reports. Business affairs, Christine.
Okay, I'll highlight just a few items from my report. Kind of exciting, Dr. Robert Claxton, this week we start the install of the alternative energy solar wall in the school. I'm really excited to see that because I've been watching it be designed for the last year and a half. And it's going to be a really nice piece that shows what the solar panels are doing. And it's got a great display to teach kids about alternative energy sources. So very excited to see that piece go in. And then one of the items that we've been working on over at LCI is because we're moving a number of students across the river next year to attend LCI to leave some space in Chinook as part of our boundary review. We needed to free up some classroom space in B Wing. And so we had educational partners in B Wing. We have career transitions, Southern Alberta Professional Development Consortia, SAPDC, and we also have parents and teachers. And so we love those partners. They work well with us. And so we wanted to find a new home for them. So we found new space for SAPDC and career transitions. So we're staying in LCI, we're moving down in the lower D wing. There's a yoga area down there right now, and so where old Cosmo used to be, and we'll be getting that space ready, and they'll actually be right near each other and share some boardroom space. So we're excited to have them down there, easy access for their public to come and go. We'll be doing that. And then parents and teachers will be moving over to Dr. Robert Claxton. And so we have space in a couple of the modular classrooms. So, that's a great program to have in an elementary school. So we'll be moving them there. A couple of things else we're doing at LCI is we are renovating a space for a sports medicine program at LCI. We're also going to be doing some badly needed renovations to the girls' change room. That's been needed for years. So a couple other things. There's lots of first person council controls. LCI will be getting a lot of upgrades there, painting, all that sort of thing. So lots of working on that. Of course, budget. The schools and program sites balance their budgets today in my budget file after being provided their allocations. Mark DeBoer is busy getting that information compiled and seeing the district view and getting all those lovely reports so that we can present the budget to the public on the 18th and then the board final approval. Occupational health and safety. We've been almost a year now that we've been running under our occupational health and safety management team approach to safety. And we've been doing lots of work in the division on safety this year. And part of a good safety program is evaluating your safety program. So we will be sending out a survey to our safety representatives that are part of our division safety committee to get their perspective on how things are going on with their safety programs. That information will be shared with the next board meeting, the June board meeting. And just a reminder of having our wonderful counseling presentation that next week, May 3rd, is our Canadian Mental Health Association Mental Health Week. So lots of good resources there and information for more. And technology's been busy, of course, working on their long-range planning, particularly with evergreening. Cybersecurity has become a big concern of late with a lot of public sector organizations, municipalities, and so IT department has been working on putting on a conference with some of our local IT professionals to talk about cybersecurity issues and solutions. And so that is well underway. And then we do have some of our laptops that are part of our mobile technology evergreening have arrived. And so as more will arrive, they'll start to get those built in the next school year. Transportation, we just sent out the bell times for next year for the schools. We think we've got some bell times that we can put some great possibilities together, working well with Holy Spirit and ourselves next year. So excited about that. And we're planning to do a registration process for transportation. Hopefully at the end of the May, we're just working on an actual transportation application.
then that's it. For my report. You have any questions? Any questions for Christine? No? Thank you very much. Lots going on. Human resources, Mike.
Thank you. So a few things in the report. Start off with in terms of the numbers for the substitute teacher and support staff list. We obviously like those numbers to be a little bit higher, and we anticipate they are going to be. We had a number of university students graduate from U of L, and they're just in the process of getting their certification, and we are calling the government and U of L pretty much every day to say, hey, can we help with the process? Because we'd love to get them up teaching in our subbing in our division, and we've also encouraged teachers that are waiting for the certification to join the support staff list, and I know a number of them have done that and are subbing in PA, so that's been just awesome. So we're excited to have them on board. In terms of other highlights, the one thing that I wanted to really emphasize was the April 12th Professional Learning Day. I was really my first spring one in the division, and I was really proud of the human resources team because they were all highly engaged in delivering professional learning for our schools, and that's really important to always remember in human resources. That's really the work that we're doing, is to make sure that we're supporting our schools so they can support our students, obviously. So yeah, that was awesome to see. And then just a big thank you to not only the members of the HR team, but certainly the trustees who helped us deliver Spirit of 51 recognition. That was really appreciated. As we discussed earlier, it's not the same as it was. We get to go in and talk to people, that sort of thing, but still we really appreciated that. It was very, very helpful. And then in terms of the staffing update, we are staffing, and we're for the 2021-22 school year. So we've completed the hiring process for 5 principal positions just recently, and then we're in progress for 7 principal positions that were advertised here recently. So that's keeping us busy for sure, but we're excited to get those taken care of. And then, as Christine mentioned, schools do have I have it as preliminary 2021-22 budgets. They balance them now, and we're working on teacher staffing allocations. And just an FYI for the board, we have most of the staff in place for Dr. Claxton. So last Friday, we gave teachers at Hawaii, the state, in Lakeview, notification of who would be placed and where they'd be placed and who would be staying in their schools and that sort of thing. So we just got a few learning positions that we need to get filled. And once we have those filled, we're very close to Dr. Claxton. So that's kind of exciting. Not only is the building coming along, but now the staffing is coming along as well. Yeah, and that's kind of a summary of what's going on in the resource department. And so if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions for Mike? All right, seeing none, we will move on. Instructional Services, Morang.
Thanks, Christine. Really, it's pretty straight up from the report that has been submitted. A few pieces that have changed even since last week or been added that I would like to just showcase are just the work that we are starting to take on through the system regarding anti-racism and oppression. I think we all recognize that we have lots of work that we need to do within our system with staff and students. And so I'll be working closely with principals and as well our diversity and inclusion table and the parents who have identified an interest in supporting us moving forward as we continue to broaden our understanding of how our system presents barriers for our minority groups and in our learning environments in our system. So looking forward to that work. It's difficult work at times, but also really good work. And I think we have a community and a system that are eager to start to grow and learn and reflect. We have also in the last month been really fortunate to receive what had first been 20 Chromebooks offered to us in a partnership from the United Way and ATB to now 66 Chromebooks to be donated to students who are in need of technology. And so I know that the board has been made aware of that, and I believe we have a letter that has been shared, and those 66 students really have been impacted significantly, and just want to share and support that donation, because we could probably benefit from having another 400, but we'll take 66 and run with them and say thank you very much. It's amazing to have that gift. We did have Shelley Moore in with us last week before her wife had her baby. We managed to get at least a half day of her knowledge and experience with our learning support teacher team, which was fabulous, and we look forward to her coming back. Yesterday, we had our wellness committee meeting, really just starting to roll out a lot of the wellness grants for next year and reviewing the grants that our schools received and the magic that those grants have mobilized for this year with primarily self-regulation and promoting physical activity. Our health champ meeting will be coming up in the next week here, where we'll be doing more think outside. So again, promoting really learning outside. I think one thing with this warm weather has been many of our schools have, in lieu of field trips, just been going outside, getting kids experiencing various different activities connected to curriculum, but then also being physically active, which has been terrific to see. Indigenous Education Grad, just a reminder that that's on the 22nd and 23rd of June. That's coming up. We've had some people leave us and some people join us. We're delighted to have Rebecca Adamson, VP currently at Senator Joyce Fairburn. She will be our new inclusive education coordinator. And then Kelsey Enright, our physiotherapist, she has indicated she'll be leaving us. We're very sad because she certainly was making some great inroads, triaging with our speech language pathologists and our learning support teachers in early education and in our schools to support our students with low incidence needs. So we hope we can replace or find someone who can do the work that she was doing. Of course, it seems funny to not mention this, as this was the real hullabaloo for the last 2 to 3 weeks, was the new curriculum announcement. And so I know many of you have been receiving lots of interest and advocacy around curriculum and how we move forward. And so we will continue to do work to support our staff as that piece rolls out. And then lastly, just a really interesting piece I've been fortunate to be a part of is the executive functioning and play survey that will be rolling out to parents of middle and high schools the last 2 weeks of May. As many of you know, Building Brains has been very involved in our early education department, just supporting executive functioning development and early learning and play. And now, very grateful for Vicki Hazelwood and the work that she's doing. She wishes to expand this work into our middle and high schools to really broaden our understanding and get some research going around how we can continue to enhance just executive functioning in our middle schools and at the grade 9 level. So looking forward to seeing what that research from that survey determines, and then we'll be working closely with Vicki probably in the next year with our middle schools to continue to enhance what we're doing in our middle schools to support the promotion of executive functioning. And then, of course, we already mentioned the virtually installed program that we've got going on. And yes, again, thanks again to Kathy Knelson for all the work she's doing to promote artistic literacy in our community. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Maureen. Does anybody have any questions for Maureen? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our superintendent report. Cheryl.
Good afternoon. The priority report is there for your information. There's been certainly some additions. It's just a briefing on things that fall within each priority area and some things that have been happening there. And so the Professional Learning Day Mike talked about, so extension of bouquets to a number of people, lead teachers, Karen
who helped to organize the collaborative communities across districts in terms of professional learning there. We continue to move forward with assessments in literacy and numeracy and gathering data, implementation. Thank you again to Paramedic Director of Curriculum for some feedback and working with lead teachers and so forth for some of that feedback. We continue, I just want to read the whole thing. I think Maura updated to the Indigenous team certainly, which has been some leave for good reasons and some come to join the team and add benefits to the entire school jurisdiction. So that's been wonderful. I think when I think about the division overall, I can say that we've got an entire division of people working incredibly hard, incredibly committed to continue to meet the needs of students. I know Christine mentioned, and we've got some very tired, this has been a long haul of some very tired parents, very tired kids. I feel bad that we've got some students who've been quarantined on numerous occasions through the year. That's incredibly frustrating, I'm sure, for them and their families. And we've got some teachers who've been quarantined numerous occasions. And I sort of look at whenever we're on the cusp of May, I sort of call it the sprint to the end. And I think that, we've got our goal will be to continue to support staff and students and families, keep the train on the track to the end, and at the same time try to provide some clarity in terms of what's happening in the fall. And so that will be our goal over the next 2 months, of course, with the priorities of budgeting and staffing and making sure programs and services are in place to support families. So, is there any questions for the report?
Where are we at with registrations for the e-learning pilot?
We hosted the information session last night online, and so it's opened up again. We've got enough students for our elementary program, and we're looking at we could use some more for middle school. We have a very good space there for middle school. And high school just started Clark. I just opened up, so that one's too hard to predict.
So when you say enough for elementary, what is that size?
Oh, Garrett, what have we got now? Around
64 total, I think.
64, about, yeah. So we might have one combined class in that configuration part.
That's 64 grades 1 through
5, yeah.
And then middle school, you said there's,
About 45, I think.
Okay, 45, yeah.
Right, thanks.
Any other questions? Anyone will move on. Education Week, May 3rd to 7th, and I know that the board recognizes and celebrates schools by, I believe that will be the board members that will have arranged for baskets of individually accessible treats for school staff at each school, and certainly we'll make sure that that's showcased as well on our website and meeting celebration of Education Week. And as I just talked about, there could be no better time than to celebrate the work that's going on in schools than right now this spring. Acknowledgement of excellence. Thank you to General Stewart for their showcase of some of the amazing events that they've had over the course of the year. Demonstrates their creative approach to making sure that one of their priorities, and that's community engagement, continues to happen regardless of the circumstances. So certainly they've made a huge effort to do that. Chinook Showcase, there's a number of individuals that have been showcased in their description or identification of individuals high merit for sure. And if we take a look at the donations and support, we have the Pango Pizza $1,000 donation, and Warwick talked about the ATB Financial alongside the United Way. Anyone up to a little video clip of The laptop's getting, let's do it. All right, Deanna.
Where do we have a lot of sound in that video? Okay. So I will be sharing it in this way. I'll share it now. I don't know what to do.
That's okay, I've seen it, it's brilliant.
I am super pleased to announce that through our partnership with CCTV, they have donated the Western Division, which will be supporting 7 different schools in our area. The donation comes from ATV as they really want to support student learning. It's been successful with the pandemic, and so ATV got in touch with all of the United Ways across the province to coordinate drop off of products that will be directly owned by the students and hopefully have a huge impact on helping students with their actual learning through this area. We recommend that there is a true disparity in terms of access to technology to really support actual learning. And so we're really hoping that with these computers going home, it's going to not only help the students get that learning, but their families as well have access to a lot of things that would typically aid into other sections, including photography. So we are really excited to see how this can be started in our community and that it has a whole lot of scale as these students are really. So we're really happy to be able to deliver ETG and we want to support our community and pick them and being able to do good in our community.
Thank you, Dan. There's more, just huge, what a amazing thing for 66 young men and women who are children who now have access to technology so that they can learn from home. Should that be part of a situation at the school in terms of quarantine or isolation or part of their personal choices or context? So that's amazing, and thank you to ATP and their partners. So let's take a look at calendar of events. Anything we're missing? Good. That looks like it for me then. Have any?
Thank you. Amazing to believe we've almost reached May this year. All right, next we have a copy of a public forum response to Alberta Pike, and her son wrote attended our meeting through Teams, just advocating for esports and opening up online activities into our pandemic plan. So Allison definitely has an effect on the board, and we did hear her voice, and we did meet and approve online activities to happen within the pandemic. So that letter is there for you to read. Garrett, has there been any interest in public forum today? Have you heard of anything? Okay. Well, that typically happens at 5 o'clock, and it's still 4:45, so we're just going to keep going. And at 5 o'clock, we'll revisit and see if anybody is wanting to pop in for public forum today. So next, we will go on to our report. The first is Division School Council. I attended Division School Council along with Doug and Cheryl this week. There was no significant issues that came up this month. We let them know about the special board meeting on April 19th, and that we were going to be discussing the pandemic plan as well as the budget. And there was some conversation regarding the new curriculum, the draft curriculum, and so Cheryl directed parents as to where to find it, where to find information on that, as well as where to find access to a feedback survey that they can give to Alberta Education. They spoke about the ASCA virtual conference that's happening on April 23rd and 24th. And then we did have a brief discussion on COVID protocol or moving schools to online learning. And we did have a conversation how just reminding parents that our division is under the authority of Alberta Health Services. I know there was questions regarding quarantine times and keeping students in school. So that was our meeting. Next is the Policy Advisory Committee. We just went through the policy. Lola, is there anything else you would like to add? All right. And Division Wellness Committee, Donna.
Well, we just had a meeting last night, so I'll go over it today. So one of the things that we give out each year are grants, and May 21st is the deadline for a report. We report on those grants. We like some pictures and tell us how they use them. Then the next year's grants, we're looking at promoting outside, and they are due on June 4th. May is mental health month, and we always want everybody to be conscious of their mental health, and especially in the month of May. Then Kathy Nandel gave us a report. She gave it to you today earlier, but she has a pilot project going that was extremely successful called Straws, and it's in partnership with the Children's Mental Health and Addictions. And we get one therapist goes into the school for six weeks, and I think next year we'll probably take it to all the high schools. We started that June. And then next year, we feel that there's a need to look at anti-racism and oppression. We'll probably look at that through the Wellness Committee, and Mariah has done a lot of work now. She's mapped out the areas that we need to look at specifically, and probably will come back to the board with some policy work and taking a look at this area. It's needed at this time. It's also time for a wellness forum. It's been 6 years since we had one. However, we'll have to think what COVID is doing. But if we do have a wellness forum, we have a topic we'd like to pursue, and that would be how do we create positive cultures in our school? And we'll see when we can do it. I hope we don't have to do it virtually. Okay, then thinking outside. We've been pushing people to get outside more, especially through COVID. And it's getting reported to us that people, classes, cohorts are actually getting outside more. We're seeing more and more of it. So we're really pleased at that, and we'll probably need to be pushing a little bit more of that in the future. But we're really, really glad to see how many classes and cohorts are actually spending time doing the class outside. And then nutrition. We're getting the same nutritional money that we had last year, so we're happy about that. There, that's my report.
Thank you, Donna. Any questions for Donna? All right, we will move on to correspondence received. You'll see in your package, Cheryl received a letter from Charlene Kachamonia, our Field Services Manager from First Nations Métis and Inuit Services Branch. We also received a letter from the Minister of Education thanking us for our hospitality last month when we announced the new school approval. I also received two that are actually your packages. One you all have before you is from the Reconciliation of Bridge Advisory Committee thanking us for not piloting the curriculum, and within the letter they explain their reasons for not supporting the new proposed curriculum. And I've also received a letter from the Public School Boards Association of Alberta. In correspondence sent, as you can see, we sent a letter to Premier Kenny, Minister LaGrange, and Minister Shandro regarding seeing education as an essential service and vaccinations for our staffing. And then we also sent a letter to the Minister of Education regarding our position on the draft curriculum, and Cheryl and Karen Rancier did a really great job collating, some information for us that we sent along. We needed, some reasons behind our decision. And so this 7-page letter is certainly not exhaustive, but it is the beginning of a conversation as to why we are not supporting the new curriculum. And that is the correspondence we have sent. And it is 10 to 5. And we do not have, as far as I know, public forums. Do we need to wait until 5 o'clock? Okay, it will be prudent to wait until 5 o'clock. Okay. So we will wait until 5 o'clock. Are you able to meet us, please? Thank you. We'll keep our masks on, but we can talk. While we wait. While we wait. You're right, Donna. It is great to see like all the great solar panels that we were going outside now. And then we have the weather that is
Makes a difference. Yeah.
We're not muted online.
We're just going to.
Did anybody want to see the letter that we received from Public School Boards Association?
Was it positive? Well, is it positive? You asked us if we wanted.
Oh, the letter? Yeah. It was just an information letter. Yeah. Eric, do we have anybody watching with us online right now?
Good. I wanted her to see more.
We're hoping you start tonight, would you? Doing my plans.
You must be over it. Over it. Drugs or something, because we can't get involved. What that value? Thanks very much. Here it is. Oh, yeah.
All right, it is 5 o'clock, and seeing that there are no attendees for a public forum, I will formally move that this adjourn our meeting today. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.